Joe Pott back at the Sports Page Lounge here in Collinsville, Illinois, part of Old Herald Brewery and Distillery, alumni-owned Sports Page Lounge, and we're glad to be back for another fall sports preview. I've got the head men's soccer coach, Cale Wasserman, with us here. Is this season number 6?
Yep, we're starting
right?
year six.
And you'll have to forgive Coach. Tough practice already that took a toll on the voice a little bit. I think first thing, that I think about when I think about coming off a season like you had last year, statistically the best winning percentage in NCAA Division I, rolling through the OVC, the regular season title, the conference title, obviously a target placed squarely on your backs. How does that change the way you approach this season?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Last year was a special group, special team, amazing results, bronze boot victory, conference championships. But we graduated a lot of those guys, and so now it's a little bit of a rebuilding. But at the same time, I think the greatest legacy you can leave is the culture you leave behind. And I think the guys that graduated did a great job of laying the foundation the last couple of years. And not only do we have a great group of guys coming in, but also a great group of returners as well. So although we'll have a target on our back, we're excited for the challenge both in conference and out of conference.
You were at, last year, I feel like kind of at that sweet spot. You were finally getting your full complement of players. For you and for your staff. You had a great mix, obviously, of some guys who had been in the program as long as you had been here. You had some newcomers. It really just felt like a special group, and obviously special results, as you said. How do you toe that line of like, man, we want more, and not getting complacent, to be honest?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that got us to the place we were in last year is the previous years before, when we weren't quite there, we never dropped the standard, and we still had really high expectations in standard. And I think the same thing is gonna be apparent this year. It's a little bit of a new team, but our goals haven't changed. We'll make some adjustments. We'll have some tactical changes, some personnel changes, but our goals remain the same. Our recruiting remains the same. Our preparation remains the same, and we'll fight tooth and nail to chase the same accomplishments as last year, and our goal is actually to go further in the NCAA tournament. So definitely not dropping the standard at all, and excited about it.
When you talk about not dropping the standard and keeping that, I mean, that's something obviously that goes all the way back to 1968, to the first team that played on this campus. Mm-hmm. Men's soccer has had that lore, has had that history. How much do you let your guys know about, hey, this is what has come before you, this is what we're all trying to live up to?
Yeah, it's funny you ask about that, because we talk to our group a lot about the past and also the future. The program is bigger than each individual. What's been before us, what'll come after. And we were actually just talking about team culture a lot this week. And one of the things when you talk to former players here, especially from the 60s and the 70s, they talk a lot about the word intangibles. And those guys that played on those national championship teams always talk about the intangibles. And so that's something that we've cemented in our culture. And so I feel we've got a very talented team, a team I'm excited about. I think they'll be entertaining. I think they'll be fun to watch. But one thing that will remain the same is those intangibles, the work rate, the grit, the mental toughness. So I think that's the stuff in these tight 1-1 games when you're trying to get over the hump and beat a Big Ten opponent like a Michigan State in our opener, or SIUE in the bronze boot. What's going to tip the scale, and it's those intangibles. And that's a big lesson that we've taken from the previous players in the earlier generations. And hope to carry forward for the future as well.
Cougars head men's soccer coach Cale Wasserman with us here as we have another fall sports preview. We've mentioned the bronze boot a couple of times. Let's talk about that, because when we talk about the history of this program, that's something I heard about from the moment I got here. Mm-hmm. And the result never came for SIUE in my time until last year. And then everything again together, a tremendous game, tremendous atmosphere at City Park. You'll be back at City Park this year. I can't imagine that there's much more than wanting to now retain that trophy. It took a while to get the trophy back to where it belongs. Mm-hmm. Now you want to keep it here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a pretty special thing to play in a venue like that. It's arguably the best soccer specific venue in the country, but for us it's also pretty cool to play alongside the women and do a doubleheader like last year. So we're really excited about the event. We're trying to take things one day at a time and focus on training and preseason in our first game. But there's no doubt, that's one that's been circled on the calendar calendar, not just for us, but for alums and for the department and the local community. And so we're excited to get back there, and it'll be a great game. I mean, SLU's got a very, very good program every year, and it's a local rivalry. A lot of guys know each other. They've played with each other. They've played against each other in the area and in the region. Coaching staff has a good mutual respect, but also both teams want to win that game. And so we've got it in our possession right now. The Bronze Boot Trophy's been sitting in our locker room and in our offices the last 340 days or whatever it is, but we're gonna fight and be ready and be prepared to put on a good show and do everything we can to get another win.
How important is that as a rivalry in a game like that, just for soccer in this region?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's really cool to be a part of such a historic match, and when you have a traveling trophy that you get to keep, it always adds an additional element. But just for the local community, the regional community, and quite honestly, even nationwide, when you have such a big rivalry that's marketed, it's televised. When we had that game last year, we had a great crowd. We had family, friends, community, department, everybody supporting. But also I had coaches from California, New York, Miami texting and calling saying they watched the game. And I think that's one that people around the country, they know about the history behind that match. They know the quality of both programs currently. So I think that's one that garners a lot of attention for good reason. And it's quite honestly, it's exciting to be a part of, and one that we want to tip the scales in our favor again.
That is obviously a big part of the schedule, but the schedule itself, you mentioned Michigan State in the opener, the regular season, but you've got Marquette in the preseason. You'll go play Ohio State and Dayton in Columbus, Ohio. This is not a cupcake of a non-conference schedule.
No, it's tough. I mean, look, last year was our first year in the OVC, and we're excited to go back to battle with those guys. And so obviously our big focus is trying to prep to be successful in the conference. And so to do so, we tried to challenge ourselves as best we could to get some local or some regional opponents that are top 25 teams, NCAA teams. We'll have a rematch with Memphis, who we faced in the NCAA tournament. But even teams like Uno and Bradley, they all provide different challenges. But certainly to open up with two Big Ten opponents, two opponents that I'm fairly familiar with my time in the Big Ten. We're excited about the challenge, and starting off this weekend, we go to Evansville, who's a foe that we had in the MVC. So, we have some teams we're familiar with, but also some teams we're not so comfortable playing, and I think that'll provide us a good balance and test. So when we do get to that OVC conference, we're battle tested and ready to go.
How special is the Michigan State game because of the time you spent there? Their head coach is a local local soccer guy in Damon. How special will that be to have them come back? Yeah,
it's cool. I mean, my first year that was my first game actually. We went to Michigan State 5 years ago. That was my first game ever as a head coach here at SIUE. And
what was the last game at Michigan State?
That was the last game.
The last game that you were at Michigan State?
The last game that I coached in at Michigan State, yeah, we were in the Final Four. So, it's a program that's been to Final Fours, national championships, Big Ten championships, quarterfinals. I mean, it is a very well-established program, and that's the level that I feel that this program can compete at. And so we want to bring teams like that to us. Obviously, we go on the road to play teams like that, but it is a special occasion to bring a team in like that to our place to open up. We've had a great crowd at Cordy Stadium over the last couple of years, and so I think, hopefully this is one where our crowd will help us out and come and put on a show. And I do think our home crowd does a great job to provide our players energy. So yeah, it's a special feeling to play a game like that, and I think our guys are going to be well prepared and ready to go. And half our team is new this year, and so I think for them to be in such a game, in their first game ever in our red and white jerseys, is going to be a fun one.
Talk about that roster a little bit. You've led me right into it. Because when you look at it, when you break it down, I think it's 65% of your scoring is back. You've got a lot of offensive weapons that return. There's going to be some newcomers, obviously, that are going to slot in on that defense. You've got a veteran in Wes Gibson back there, but you also have a new goalkeeper this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess both sides of the ball are going to look a little different, where we've got some changes in the back line, but also some experience. I mean, Wes Gibson's a fifth-year player for us. He's a captain. Nick Munch has played both in the attack and in the back, but he's a senior this year who brings a lot of quality. He scored some big goals for us last year, both in the attack and from the back line, attacking going forward. But you got a guy like Bobby Pauly, who's a St. Louis kid. He was one of our biggest contributors as a freshman last year, and now he'll slot his way into the starting lineup. And we brought in some quality with a couple transfers. Patrick Coleman, who played at Notre Dame and NIU, and then you have Elliot Forestier, who was an all-conference player in Division II last year. And losing Sam Gomez was a big loss last year. He's a professional now, was a captain last year. But Rob July has come in, D2 player from the state of Michigan, not far from my hometown actually. And honestly, I think he was our best player all spring. He was the most consistent every day. He won our King of the Spring, which is an internal competition that we have every day in training. But like you mentioned, I mean, our attack, we bring back Pavel up front, 9 goals last year, was all conference. Steph Morer was attacking player of the year last year. But even guys like Jacob Billieu, I mean, he is an energy guy. He's so athletic. He's such a great leader. He provides from the front both pressing and energy and leadership, but also can beat you 1v1. He's a great delivery of crosses. And then Jake Karolzak, he was a consistent starter last year. And then not to mention Nacho Abial and Jacobo Sanfeliu. Those guys combined scored about 30 goals this summer in USL2, and we're both in like the top 5 goal scorers this summer. So, most of our guys play all summer long in that league, but those 2 guys had really special summers. They're coming in buzzing, lots of confidence. So we bring back a lot of our attack, and goals change games, and so we're excited about that.
Head coach Cale Wasserman, as we talk, you've got Evansville coming up, and then Marquette at Cordy Stadium, and the regular season will be here before we know it. Thanks for taking some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. Go Cougars.
The Cougars head coach, and we've got plenty more fall previews to come from here at the Sports Page Lounge, part of Old Herald, alumni owned in Collinsville.